Welcome to Historia.
Yay! It's been a while.
I know.
And we didn't have an episode last week, so apologies.
We apologize.
Life got really intense all of a sudden.
Kylie decided to get sick.
Yeah, I had a throat infection. So I literally couldn't speak. So, kind of hard to do a podcast when you can't speak.
Yes.
And then I went on my trip to New York.
How was that?
Incredible. If you're going to New York City, 4 days, perfect amount of time. Because after that, it's just like, okay, I want to go home. It's just crazy. It's a crazy place to be. But I loved it. It was awesome.
I think it's the third most popular state, and it's mostly because of the city.
Mm-hmm. Like,
which is crazy.
Every time I was anywhere, there were people speaking different languages. It was really cool. It's very, diverse. Probably the most diverse area I've ever seen. So, it was awesome. I had a great time. I went with my sister. We saw all the touristy places. So, the 9/11 museum was awesome. That was, my favorite. That, and then we went to 3 Broadway shows, which, of course, I loved.
Of course.
And I cried.
Oh, my.
A lot. I was, nervous. We got to Hadestown. It was the first show we saw.
Yeah.
And I was, hyperventilating. It was oh, my God. Because the original cast was there.
Oh, wow.
Because the show came out in 2019.
Oh.
So then, in 2020, the pandemic happened, and so they had to stop touring and performing. And so then they brought the original cast back. So I saw the original cast of Hadestown, and I did not know that was going to happen.
What?
Yeah. So I was oh! And that show was incredible. And then we saw Chicago, and that was a fun experience because we were, in the front row.
Wow.
So we got to see, them, sweating and, the spit coming out of their mouth. It was awesome to be, up close and personal.
Dang.
And then Jagged Little Pill was such a good show. I wanted it to be a surprise, so I didn't look up. Usually I obsess over musicals, and I'm the story, but I didn't look this one up. So, I knew the story, but I didn't know how it ended. So I wanted it to be a surprise, and it was amazing. It was such a good show. And I cried. So, and I think I cried just because I was I miss theater, I miss performing, and I just miss being in a theater. So.
We have the local ones here, don't we?
There's not much to offer.
Yeah.
I've looked into it plenty of times, but yeah, it was awesome. I went to the museums, the National Museum of Natural History.
I was jealous that you went there.
It was cool. It
gave me so much nostalgia of Night at the Museum.
Yeah, they actually have a whole section
really?
Over it, yeah, because
No
they filmed the outside of it.
Yeah,
and then some of the exhibits as well. But yeah, it was super cool. And I went to the art museum. Huge. Yeah. That was an interesting experience because so we were on a boat, we went on a cruise ship for 3 hours the day before.
Yeah.
We were on subways over and over again, airplanes, our Uber rides that were intense. So we were dizzy. I'm still dizzy from everything, but we were at the art museum and we were falling over, looking at art. So we were
because it was a lot of abstract art.
Yeah,
oh
yeah. It was
God.
just, it was such a weird experience.
See, I like Renaissance art. I can't do abstract. It's very hard for me because I guess I don't have that in me to look at just a colored
splatters
painting.
of paint.
Yeah, and know what how to feel and stuff like that. I don't have it in me. I feel the emotion looking at Renaissance art because just knowing the history of it and just how just the artists what they were going through, their
awesome.
history, it's so emotional.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas abstract, I have that really hard time trying to connect with it.
Yeah, me too. They have a huge section of European art. And yeah, it's really cool. Where else did we go? On our cruise, we saw the Statue of Liberty, and we went through Brooklyn, the Bronx. We went on a subway ride in the wrong direction. So we got lost.
Well, you have to do that at least once.
Yes. We were trying to go to the art museum.
Yeah.
So we were supposed to get there at 9 a.m. and it was already 10:30.
Oh my God.
And I was okay, we have to be close. This is the stop they told us to get on. So then I pull up the maps and it says it's a 3-hour walk. And I was we're in Brooklyn.
You went all the way to Brooklyn?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
We were on the right subway, but it was going in the wrong direction, which is hard to tell. So yeah. So eventually we found our way to the art museum, and the reason why we took a subway because it was a 45-minute walk from us. We were staying in the Times Square area, which was awesome because we got to walk like everywhere. But yeah, so it was like a 40-minute walk. And so we were like, let's just take a subway. It's supposed to be like 10 minutes. And then like we end up getting lost. And then by the time we actually do get to our stop, it's still like a 30-minute walk. So,
oh my god.
It was a fun experience. Yeah. But we got to walk around Central Park that day.
Heck yeah.
So we saw the Rockefeller Center. They don't have the tree up yet until December 1st.
Really?
Yeah. And the ice skating rink is tiny. I was like, oh, okay. But what was really cool about that building is we got to go to the observation tower at the top, so you get to see the whole city, which was cool. Awesome. And then on the way up there, you go in this elevator and you look up and you can see it going up. And it like has this big countdown. Yeah. It's like a whole light show in the elevator. It's so fun. And then the parade. We went to the parade.
That is like on so many people's bucket list, and you just did it. You did it.
Yeah. It was chaotic. Like, so we got up early because we were told like be there by 6 a.m.
Yeah.
If you want a good spot. And so we leave at 6 and we're trying to find a spot and we like can't figure out where the route is because they changed it this year. And we were asking all the police officers and we're like, I don't know. Like none of them knew what was going on because they kept like changing it.
Oh.
So like we were just following crowds of people like trying to figure out where to go. But eventually we found a spot and we were like pretty close to the front. There were a few people in front of us, but like, so we sat there waiting for 2 hours because we got there around like 7 for our spot and it started at 9. And when it starts, everybody moves up.
Yeah.
And so you cannot move. Like everyone's crowding around you. Like if you have any form of social anxiety or like, what's it called? Like where claustrophobia. Don't go because it was a mess. And like my sister's very introverted and she was like, get me out of here. But it's an experience. You gotta have it.
Yeah.
And then we saw all the floats and like a lot of the floats were like about to fall over. So it was kind of cool seeing like the behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Like Smokey the Bear was like almost running into the light pole. We were like, oh! Like the whole crowd was like, oh! We got to see all like the famous people and what you don't see on TV is like it takes them a very long time to go around because they have to stop in order to get the footage.
Yeah.
So it's like they like come to us and then they have to stop there for like 10 minutes and then they keep going. What? So a lot of the celebrities were just staring at us like waving awkwardly. We were just like, hello. So that was fun. And then we got to see them deflate the balloons at the end, which was cool. But the streets were chaotic. It was very intense.
Well, it's New York City.
Yes.
It's go, go, go.
Yes. Very, very fast paced. Yeah. It's a lot different than Colorado. But it's a great experience. The driving is just insane. Our Uber driver on our way to the airport yesterday was like, I really thought we were going to die. They just honk at each other. Like, they don't even use turning signals. They just honk and then get in each other's way.
I'm coming here.
Yeah. It's so funny. And then, like, he's, like, cussing them out. And I'm just, like, we're in the back, like, oh, my God. It was great. Great experience. So, 10 out of 10 recommends going. Yeah. It was awesome. Like, we stayed on Times Square. We got to see the Empire State Building from our room.
Ooh.
We were going to go inside of it, but it was the day we were kind of late for the museum. So we were like, let's just not. We don't have time for that.
We don't got time for that.
So yeah, it was great. I'm very tired.
Oh.
Got back late last night and then had a dentist appointment this morning. So it's fun.
Oh, what a classic Black Friday, Thanksgiving journey.
Yes. Did you go Black Friday shopping?
I mean, we went for a little bit just to get a new TV.
Yeah.
But someone had to work today, and that was me. It was so empty.
Really?
Yeah, there was like hardly anybody at work today, and I was just like... So I just listened to true crime all day and just kind of...
Took it easy. By the way, it's Black Friday.
Yay!
They might be confused what we're talking about.
Oh, yeah. Well, it comes out tomorrow anyway.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, this is like a quick turnaround, so...
He was right in prime. I hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving and Black Friday.
Yeah, I'll be editing this like tonight / tomorrow morning. So
brand new computer.
On my new computer. That's what I got for Black Friday. I was like, I need a new computer because mine literally won't turn on. And it's from 2008. So I was like, or 2006, something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, got a new computer.
All right, so done 10 minutes of
chit-chatting.
Chit-chatting.
It's been a while, you know?
I know. It's literally haven't seen each other in a hot minute.
Yeah, for real.
But you know who hasn't been around for a hot minute?
Who?
The one we're talking about today.
Ah, good segue.
I'm always trying to figure out, like, how can I do proper segues?
Like, how do I, like, just dive in this direction?
Pretty much, but I am talking about a Spanish conquistador, Hernan Cortes.
Dun, 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 dun.
You know, I took 2 Latin America classes in college. One that was like colonial, and then one that was like post-colonial, so kind of like more of like the revolutions and stuff in Latin America, like around like the 1800s, 1900s,
yeah,
and so on. I didn't really learn anything about Cortes.
Really?
Yeah. Do you know anything about him?
I actually taught about him.
Oh.
Because we just did European exploration.
So you know, like...
So we're not even done with it. It's such a long thing. I hate teaching it. I like teaching Civil War and all that, but, like, I don't like teaching European exploration.
I like Latin America history. It's very interesting to me just because there's so much.
It is very interesting.
Plus the brutality. I'm just like, how?
It's just hard to teach because there's a lot of names.
Yeah.
And we go in, like, every area.
Yeah.
So the kids are just confused.
There's so many. There's so many.
But yeah, I talked about him, so.
Great. So, this man, he is on a level that I did not expect him to be. Like, with Columbus, he was on his own level.
Yeah.
But like Cortes, he came in, flipped everyone the bird, and walked off. Like, that was him. I feel like Columbus was just like, how can I work the system to my favor?
Right.
Whereas Cortes was just like, fuck all of you, I'm doing my own thing.
That's fair.
And he did.
Different mindsets, but...
It really is. And it wasn't that long of like a separation of time between the two. But yeah, they had completely, like, they had similar motives, but they were different at the same time.
Yeah.
So let's jump on into this man.
Woohoo!
So, born 1485 in Medellin, Castile, which is in Spain. His full name is Hernan Cortes de Monroy y Pizarro Altamirano.
Wow.
Yeah. So this means Marquis of the Valley of Oaxaca.
Okay.
His parents were non-wealthy nobles, so he didn't grow up rich, but his family was like distant wealthy nobles. But they're not. So they're not like, it's weird. His father was Martin Cortes de Monroy, and his mother was Dona Catalina Pizarro Altamirano.
Cool.
So he has a very long name because he takes both of them.
Right.
And I believe his mother had her family had a pretty big name. Whereas, like, his father had, like, a pretty so-so name, but because she married into his family, like, that kind of distanced them from that wealthy lineage or noble lineage. So, they kind of struggled for money, in a sense. But they still had, like, an estate and whatnot. They wanted to still be seen as better. But they weren't.
That's fair.
Now, this particular area Cortes grew up in was located in the Extremadura province. This province is it's in Spain, but it's pretty nice. Spain was like kind of like subjugated weirdly, like a lot of like how the areas are. But they were very separated in different ways, especially because it was right next to Portugal and everything.
Right.
it's hilarious how much those two hated each other, but they were so close to. Now, his nobility stood by his distant cousin, Francisco Pizarro, who conquered the Incan Empire in Peru. So that's where a lot of, like, his nobility came from. Like, I remember learning briefly about Pizarro, but it's not really coming to mind of just, like, but having that much influence against the Incan Empire, like, holy shit.
Right.
Like, you probably have, like, a lot of money. And I think because his background is there's not a lot to it. Like, you don't really find a lot about, like, his childhood and whatnot, but having this distant cousin who also conquered, I think that kind of inspired him growing up, too, is that, well, I kind of want to do something like that. Maybe.
Yeah.
Having that, like, distant thought growing up to have, like, that important person in his family to be a part of something that he later on in life would have to or do.
Yeah, yeah.
As an infant,
we're going way back.
Yeah, we're going way back to Cortes. So when Cortes was an infant into his childhood, he was constantly ill. He was one of those, like, sickly children who just pretty much never was healthy up until, like, a certain age. Like, he was always sick, probably always had a cough, fevers, just was never, like, in the right mind to, like, be a healthy child. And I think it's hard, too, especially in that area, because their medicine practice was awful. But they had their own thing going on. The older that he got, the healthier he became, and by age 14 in 1499, Martin saved up enough money and to send Cortes to the University of Salamanca. He wanted this. He pretty much wanted his son to do better in life than him.
Oh, okay.
He wanted him to go to be a law student, to study law, to become, like, a lawyer or whatnot. He wanted him to pretty much bring proud to the family because he kind of struggled with it. They just carry the family name. He wanted him to do something with that family name. So he saved as much money as he can, and he was like, see ya. You're going to university at 14.
See ya.
That's super young, and I don't really even think he was that smart, but and it would come later on, like, sending a 14-year-old child off on his own, that's not a good idea.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like the best idea.
No, it's like boarding school, I get it, but, like, a university, I'm like, I don't think he's gonna do what you want him to.
No.
You're giving him more freedom now, and
his brain is not developed for that.
Yeah, no. Especially learning law, like, come on.
Right.
Now, so Cortes is going to this university. He's 14 years old, studying law, just kind of dipping in the water of just being on his own, and was like, what the hell am I doing here? He pretty much was growing tired of school, and his illnesses, like, he was getting healthier, but he was still getting sick. Mm-hmm. And they never, in my research, it never specified what he was sick from exactly. Like, I'm sure he had, like, a colic or something as a kid, but it never specified if it was, like, pneumonia or
maybe, like, they just weren't sure.
No, well, it's really hard to tell, especially if you're not making comments about it or writing about it.
Right.
So,
and, like, with his, it didn't go away, so.
Yeah, he kind of grew with it. There is another, like, illness that he would carry on, but I will get later into that. It is very interesting.
Oh.
Cortes, growing tired, he returned home from school. Like, after, like, a couple years, he was like, I'm over this. I hate law. I don't want anything to do with this. I'm coming home, Dad. Martin was not happy. He was just like, why are you back? What are you going to do with your life? You're just some punk kid now. You're 16. You're, like, 16 years old. What are you doing with your life?
Oh, my God. Imagine trying to know what you're doing with your life at 16.
Yeah. And Cortes did have something in mind. Along the way of just exploring pretty much a world of freedom and growing tired of law, he always had this fascination of the New World. Mm-hmm. Probably because of his distant cousin.
Yeah.
he always saw himself wanting more in life to pretty much go out and just discover the new world any way that he could. He wanted to he didn't care what he had to do. He just wanted to do something in the new world because he wanted to feel like he could do something more and grow a name with it, which...
Good time for that.
Yep. Prime time is freaking 1500. You're doing well. Like,
it's like how all the kids nowadays are like, I'm going to be a TikTok star because they think that's like the only thing you can do right now.
I know. I don't even have TikTok. I just have James and my sister send me them all the time, so I kind of understand it.
Yeah, one of my students like told her mom that her dream is to be famous on TikTok.
Oh my god. Honestly, it might be like Vine and just disappear in a few years.
It will be. That's the thing.
And then everybody will go to YouTube, and then something else will come along.
Yeah, who knows? Anyway, it's kind of like that though, where it's like the trend that's following. And so you're, like, trying to take advantage of that opportunity. Obviously, the new world's a little bit different than TikTok, but... but, you know...
They're exactly the same. Yeah. What do you mean?
TikTok is the new world, okay? Let's be honest.
Oh, God. No. As he was drawn to the new world, it was not only because of his cousin, I'm sure, but it was also, he was drawn to the stories that everybody has, probably of Columbus. He probably heard of him and was like, shit.
That'd be me.
Is cool. I like it. I want it. I need it.
I need it.
And it wasn't always the stories, too. It was the gold that they brought back, especially. You're not finding anywhere John Smith was going. There was no gold that they could find at that time. But in Mexico, in Peru, everywhere in Latin America, gold. Because it wasn't even just what they were digging up. All of like the Aztecs, the Mayans, the Incans, they all had jewelry of gold and they gave it as gifts.
Yeah.
And everybody brought that back. They brought back all of like the jewelry, the stories, and that gives you belief that, oh my God, I could become a millionaire. I could become rich and famous with getting this gold and bringing it back, because that was gold at the time was a huge export. Mm-hmm. This was also an exciting venture for Cortes. So, of course, he wanted to do anything that he could to go to the New World.
Yeah.
Wanting this new adventure, Cortes signed up that exact year, on an expedition with a family friend who was the governor of Hispaniola at the time, Nicolas de Ovando. Okay. On his way to the ship to leave, Cortes fell in rubble, rubble fell onto him, like out of just, Jesus. He was like running to go to the ship, and then boom, all this rubble like fell on him. Causing him to severely injure his back.
This guy, poor guy.
No.
Poor guy for now. Okay.
Yes. But it's dude has really bad luck.
That's the thing, yeah.
In the beginning of his life.
He gets sick and then he gets hit by rubble.
I was even seeing in one of like my researches that supposedly he was like talking to this lady, and like the husband came out and was like, what the fuck you doing? And he's the one who pushed him into like the falling rubble. But I don't know. That's just something that I found. I'm not 100% sure that is correct. When I saw that, I was just like, what the fuck is going on? I was like, this dude is wild. So now he has like a broken back. He can't go on this trip.
My God. Completely
again. It wouldn't be until 1504 that Cortes would try again to set sail onto the New World. So this would be another, like, 3 years.
Jeez.
Until trying again. So he kind of spent 3 years just, like, walking around on, like, a little cane. Like, I'm gonna get my strength to go to the New World. I want some gold.
On a little cane.
Little old cane. Now, age 20, Cortes set sail on a ship of the Santo Domingo, what we know as the Dominican Republic now.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know what the ship's name was called exactly. All I know is that he went on one. As he got onto the Dominican Republic, or what is Santo Domingo, in his time, he would go to a town named Azua, in Hispaniola. Now, Cortes immediately, I don't know where he got this money, like, automatically, but he owned land and served as a notary. So he pretty much, like, if you don't know what a notary is, it's pretty much when you're signing documents that need to be, like, officiated by someone else, they will write their little notes and then stamp it. That's what we do at my job for, like, very important documents that need to be, you not only sign them, but also
witnessed.
Yes, they're witnessed and they're stamped for approval.
Yeah.
And they are the ones who just, if there's any problem with something, they will go to that notary and be like, hey, you officiated this, what's up?
Yeah.
And they're pretty much held responsible for a lot of the things. So he made pretty good money doing this. It made him pretty wealthy, so he would end up owning this land in Hispaniola. He even owned a few native slaves.
Ooh.
So this is where it's starting to get a little bit more of just, like, he's starting to make a little bit more money. He's starting to, like, kind of ease his way into just being wealthy, kind of getting his foot in the water in the new world. He was even a man who was a ladies' man.
Oh.
I found that he just kept hooking up with a lot of women that he got syphilis. So,
Jesus.
I think this will become pretty important later on in his life because he kind of, his actions kind of give you of just like, because if you know Al Capone, he got syphilis and then his head kind of just got wonky. His ideas kind of just, he was no longer the same man.
Yeah. Can't go back from that.
Yeah. And I think him catching this disease is a huge factor later on in his life. In 1511, Cortes got his first taste of exploration when he joined leader Diego Velázquez de Cuellar. Like, why can't I say this? Velázquez. Because I'm not going to say where I used to live. It's Velázquez de Cuellar. There we go. I gotta get these right.
That's how I feel when I'm teaching it. I'm like, I don't freaking know.
I try so hard.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
It's really hard.
It is. I need to get my tongue to do the rolls.
We're white, okay?
I'm trying.
Gosh.
I'm fine with doing like a French thing, but when it comes to Spanish, and I'm like, I need to learn Spanish more. Now, and this expedition would be to Cuba to conquer the land in 1511. He pretty much, as soon as he stepped foot, he was like, this is pretty cool. I like this. And he was really good at it. Mm-hmm. Like, he was good at conquering, which is sad. But for, like, anybody in that time, and especially for the Spaniards, they were just like...
They didn't care. They were like, yeah,
they're like, this dude is pretty great. Whereas, like, we look at him and we're like, oh,
right.
No.
That's what they wanted at the time.
Yeah. So, Cortes at this time was 26. And he became the clerk to the treasurer, making sure the crown got their cut. So, pretty much, being the clerk was... verifying that all of the gold and all of like the exports and stuff that they would get from these lands that they conquered would go back to the crown because that's what they wanted. Queen Isabel and Ferdinand and King Ferdinand, they wanted their cut.
Yes,
and they got pissed if they didn't pull. He wanted to move up that rank. He wanted to make sure that he was getting to like Columbus status. Yeah. He was raising that. He was like, I'm going to be greater than my cousin. Bet. So Diego was so impressed with him on this expedition. He was like, okay, I see you. Okay. I will help you move up those ranks. Now, their relationship would not last very long, let me tell you that. Nobody's relationship in the New World lasted very long. You always, no matter... who you knew, you would always end up on bad terms with everybody for some odd reason because you're just fending for yourself. You're looking out for yourself.
Right.
Which, in this sense, it's like not the worst thing. But it's like, if you don't have somebody to lean on or like a trustworthy person, you're going to be down in the gutter eventually. Mm-hmm. Diego was now the governor of Cuba and was such a fan of Cortes that he made him his secretary, which is a high political position for him. So he went from notary to treasurer to clerk, and now he was the secretary for the governor of Cuba.
He's going up and up.
He is, and he is working hard to do it. He was being a bold leader, and he eventually had Cortes appointed as mayor of Alcalde of Santiago. So he eventually became mayor, so he was doing the thing. Nice. He was doing it right. He knew what to do. And I bet he was just laughing at his dad thinking, I left law school and my dad was pissed and look at me now. I'm in Cuba in the new world. What are you going to do? I'm living it up.
Yeah.
His dad was probably pretty proud. Everybody else is not now. In 1514, Cortes would go on a journey to capture more natives into slavery.
Of course.
Are you surprised? I think not. He had his
own. Knew it was coming.
Yeah. He did not give two shits. He was just like, you need this job done? I'll get it. I'll do it.
Yeah.
Give me the money? I'll do it. So as he was doing all these odd jobs and stuff for that, and his budding friendship with Velázquez was not lasting very long. This was because Cortes decided to get into a relationship with Diego's sister-in-law, Catalina Juarez.
Uh-oh.
Cortes is a womanizer. He does not take relationships. Yes. He does not take relationships seriously. He pretty much just does what he wants, goes as he pleases. But it's Diego's sister-in-law. So family is everything. And you disrespect family, you're going to get a bad taste in your mouth of that person. He was being the hussy that he was. He was playing with Catalina's feelings.
Ugh.
So he would, like, draw her in with, like, being, like, cutesy and stuff like that. And then he was just like, I don't know.
He's like, nah.
Nah.
I guess not today.
I don't think I want to marry you. This did not make Diego happy. He was just like, what the fuck, man? Are you going to marry my sister-in-law? Like, what are you going to do?
Don't play with her feelings.
Don't play with her. Right. He was just like, you can't keep doing this. You're either going to marry her or you're going to quit this out and we're done. Like, what are you going to do? Cortes was just like, fine, I guess I'll do something. But I don't really want to marry her. So, out of pettiness, Velázquez jailed Cortes. Was like, okay, then you can go into prison. You're not going to marry my sister. Then you can go in jail. Think about what you did. It was like a big old timeout. They're literally children. They have all this high authority because they decided to conquer something that they got like this title, and now they're being children and being like, playing with my sister's feelings? You can go to jail for that. And nobody was going to fight him on it. So Cortes kind of just sat there and was like, okay, but you're going to let me out? And Diego was like, no, because not only was he messing with, like, his sister-in-law, he was also going after one of her sisters.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he is such a hussy. He was just like, I like your sister. And she's just like, oh my God, how could you do this to me? And Diego's like, what the fuck, man?
He's
choose
like,
one.
Hit it and quit it.
He was just like, choose one. And so eventually Cortes was like, okay, I will marry Catalina, but you gotta let me out.
Yeah.
And so he did. He finally married Catalina and was just like, okay, I did it. Are you happy? Diego was not happy. This would forever strain their relationship to the point where it's like, Cortes, when he would go off on his own, Diego was just like, what the fuck are you doing? He was just like, see you, bitch. He would just flip him the bird and go off on his way.
It'd be like that.
Having successfully invaded Cuba, along in the way of decimating the population, Cortes strived to wanting more. He was just like, we've already done this. we've already done Cuba. I want more. He was getting greedy. Mm-hmm. That's Cortes in a whole. He is a greedy man. He wanted more. He got something. He was like,
not good enough.
Not good enough. It was all between his feelings for people, just wanting to be successful. Everything was not good enough. Yeah. He needed to strive for more. And I don't know if it was because of keeping the family name or just like what really, I think it was just to strive for his need for exploration, but it's really hard to understand like where this drive for it came from, especially with like Columbus. Like, what was their main drive to want to do this so badly?
Right.
That is just, I don't know.
I think with Columbus, he just wanted to prove everyone wrong.
Yeah,
this is what the world looks like.
Like, he had a good reason, and for Cortes, I'm still trying to figure out, like, did he just want to conquer?
He just can't, like, he's one of those people that just can't be satisfied.
Yeah.
And so he feels like he just constantly has to do more and get more.
That's what I've come to understand while researching him, is that pretty much he never could really set foot into a place for very long. Like, he was constantly moving. And I don't know if it was because of, like, when he was sick, he just, like, was always confided to one area that growing up and being healthier, he just wanted to just keep moving. Because he only lasted in law school for, like, a couple years and then was like, I hate this, I'm going to move forward. And then being on Cuba, he was just like, okay, this is great for a little bit, but I want to keep moving up.
Right.
And figure out, like, my position.
It's very interesting.
Yeah. In 1519, Velázquez strived to have a third expedition and actually decided to commission Cortes. He was just like, okay, I don't like you, but I'm going to send you on this expedition because you're good. You're a good leader. Cortes was like, I know. I'll go.
Tell me something I don't know.
Plus, I think he just really wanted to leave his wife. That's my thing.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
That does sound about right.
He's like, how can I get away without getting away?
Cortes at this point is titled as an adelantado, which is in advance. So this was a pretty high job for him. This was pretty much a title that is a high person for an expedition. So they're the advancers to move forward to go conquer more land.
Okay.
This expedition to the Yucatan was to only explore. So he was heading towards Mexico.
Yeah.
So what we know as Mexico. And he was only told by Diego to explore. That was it. Go ashore. Not really ashore. Just look at the land. Make notes. And then come back. And he was just like, okay, I'll do it. But then they arrived, and he was like, I don't want to stay in the water. I kind of want to go on land. He was like, I kind of like going on land. It's pretty nice.
See, he's not satisfied. He's like, no, the water's not good enough.
He's not. He takes his hands into his own of what he wants to do. Yeah. He will do anything to be like, this sounds great, but I'm going to do it my way.
Yeah.
It blows my mind how he even got away with any of this. I'm surprised that, like, the king and queen just didn't chop off his head for, like, disobeying.
Right.
He pretty much just went on doing his own thing. Realizing how he could go down the chain pretty much is just, like, if he kept doing what he was doing, he was never going to make it like how Diego did.
Yeah.
He was just sitting on the ship just like, if I keep doing this and not just sit here, I'm going to go down the chain eventually. Like, I'm not going to be a huge explorer and have my name everywhere if I just do as told. Like, I'm never going to make myself as somebody. And I think that was him convincing to break pretty much the word of Diego to just not follow orders. Mm-hmm. And that was a huge stepping stone for him. And by this, he decided to go inland. Mm-hmm. So he parked them ships and he was like, I'm ready to go. 11 ships and 500 men. Cortes set sail from Cuba in search for the new fortune. So they arrive on land. There is 11 ships, 500 men. Arriving in February 1519, Cortes anchored in the state of Tabasco, not as what we know as Tabasco sauce.
I was gonna say that. Tabasco.
I have this note here. I put, side note, Cortes and his conquering of the Chantalas would have an affair with a native woman, Malinche, and would bear a son named Martin.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, this dude, freaking, womanizer and a cheater.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, this woman actually, I'm glad I made this side note, because she actually would become very important into his communication with the Aztecs and everybody. So this side note is actually pretty important. And this was when they first entered into the inland, where he met her and like all of like the people. And he was a charmer. Yeah. Like he for sure, I think, was a charmer. And he pretty much, I don't think that it was really I don't think they really had a marriage. I think it was more of just like a relationship that they ended up having like a kid. Right. Who knows? He could have raped her for all we know. Right. But he named his son after his dad. So. Oh. That was like I don't think his son's really like a legitimate child, since that's like not his wife. But like naming him after your dad, like, damn. Right. Especially for like a native woman. Like.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
Mm-hmm. I don't know how they communicated, but...
yeah, they just kind of had to make...
I think that at first, but eventually Malinche would learn Spanish and interpret to everybody. So she kind of helped follow... She followed him around. And I don't know if it was out of fear or if they really grew like a bond.
That's very interesting. Mm-hmm. Like, we don't know if he was like, do this for me. Yeah. Or if like she genuinely like... loved him or wanted to be with him.
And it's so hard for a lot of this research to understand, like, because a lot that we get from are from their own writings. So they have their own mindset of what happened and whatnot. And so if you have like a multiple encounters looking at different interpretations of an event happening, you can be like, okay, so this is how this person saw how this person. But if you only have one view of it, it's just like...
you don't know the truth.
And with old history like this, you really have to take people's words like that into consideration of just like, well, this is their interpretation. There could be something else. A lot of times, though, when you look at just like artifacts, they tell a story itself. Yeah, right. As you can kind of see just like how... even with, like, paintings and just, like, the letters and stuff like that kind of share a story itself. Mm-hmm. Especially with, like, dating and whatnot. But when it comes to, like, this native was mean to me, it's like, or were you just being a dick? Like, who knows? It is interesting.
We don't know what kind of person they actually were. Like,
exactly. It's really hard to tell unless you have, like, multiple people saying, like, this dude was, like, really mean. Yeah. And you're like, okay, this guy was pretty mean, I guess. Now, the Tabasco population, due to this exposure of him just, like, coming in, would decimate. It would bring the population down to 7,500 people.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. He pretty much just walked on in. Cortes was just like, hey, guys, breathed on them, and then they got, like, smallpox and died.
Fun times.
That's what they do, because around this time, you have the plague.
Yeah.
Going on. Shit. Yeah, you had all of those plagues going around, and then you have Cortes coming in being like, I want to go to Mexico City. I heard there's this big old town, and I want to go there. And then he breathed on them, and they all died.
So it's a big dragon.
Big dragon. That's kind of what they were.
Sets them all on fire.
Yeah, and, like, they didn't try to do it intentionally, but, like...
it just happened.
They knew. I feel like they knew.
Yeah.
Especially when you have, like, a whole bunch of people dying in your country, too, of, like, this pretty bad disease. Yeah. So, that says a lot.
That's a hot mess.
When arriving to Tabasco, too, there was about over 300 men that gave their allegiance to to the king. So pretty much when you would get off the ship, Cortez would be like, do you give your allegiance to the king? Mm-hmm. And they would pretty much do like their little Boy Scouts thing, be like, I swear I allegiance to the king. And then they go on in. But they weren't even supposed to do that either. I'm like, I don't know why he did that if he just broke the rule of going inland, but honestly, he didn't give a fuck. After taking his control in Tabasco, so pretty much he just like came in, was like, hey guys, you're dead. I'm gonna take charge now. So this was like first entering into like the Mexico region that we know today in the Yucatan. He would move on to a new city called Veracruz. Now, the men here elected him as Chief Justice, encouraging him to continue his conquer to Mexico City that we know today. Now, he found out because he pretty much kept going from little tribe towns and stuff like that. Yeah. Their little cities, and he kept finding out like this huge one to be afraid of. And he was like, what's this one called? And they're like, it's the Aztecs. And he's like, the Aztecs, you see? I want to go there. Mm-hmm. So he pretty much started gaining, because everybody feared the Aztecs. The Aztecs were the mighty power that everybody feared, because if you were not on their side, you better be strong. Like you got to be hiding out, because they did have their rivals. Yeah. But they conquered a lot. Mm-hmm. And so they were powerful. A group of people to be reckoned with. They were fearful. Yeah. And people are just like, what can we do? So what Cortez started doing, he started to gather alliances with all these people who were against the Aztecs, or even some people who were like ruled under the Aztecs but wanted their freedom from them. So they kind of like teamed up with Cortez. Yeah. Not knowing his intentions, really. All they knew was that he wanted to go to their main capital and figure it out from there. Right. Like, I feel like he was pretty hush-hush. He pretty much just told them, like, I can get rid of your problem. Exactly. Let me tell you how, but not tell you how. Let me just show you. Take me there, and I will show you. And that's what they did. So he started on his way to Mexico City. Now, the Aztec Empire was massive. They had over 500 separate states that varied between 5 to 6 million people in total. That's a lot of fucking people for them. That is a lot. Yeah, and I can't imagine just having, like, their army come at you. I would cry. Yeah. Now, their power, a lot of their enemies would not think to take them on by themselves. There was just no way, because they were way too big. Because they had the military to keep throwing people out there to fight. Where a lot of these smaller ones, like their enemies, are like, we can't do that. We don't have enough people. We don't have 6 million people to just throw out there. And the Aztecs probably didn't give a fuck about who they did. Like, they were so wild that with all of their like prisoners that they had, it would make them play a ball game. I would definitely... Oh, yes, the ball game. The ball game is one of... Oh my god, I would be so terrified to play, because you never know when you're gonna die. It's wild. So pretty much they would take prisoners that they would capture from like the different, like, any battles and stuff, and force them to play this ball game. Now, these two teams... Puck to puck? Is that what it's called? I don't remember, but they had to play with their hips. Mm-hmm. And on each side, there was this little tiny hoop. I don't know how you would get the ball in there. That ball, you were probably covered in bruises by the end of the game. But you would have to hit the ball with, like, your hip. You couldn't hit it with, like, your hand. So it was kind of like soccer, but you're not playing with your feet. And you would have to get it through the hoop, and you would have to get to, I think it was a certain score limit. Yeah. And pretty much they would, like, flip a coin, or the chief would make the decision. If there was a winners, they would either be sacrificed or the losers would be sacrificed. You never knew who he was going to choose.
Yeah.
Because if the winners were being sacrificed, it was for the gods, as it was a great cause to do so.
Right.
Because they believed in human sacrifice.
The biggest thing you could give them is your heart.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then if you were a prisoner and you lost, if you could easily be sacrificed too, as just a way to just be like, you lost the game, you have to be sacrificed for our gods. Like, that's just how it is. It was wild.
Yeah, I had to explain that to 10-year-olds.
Yeah, they don't understand.
I was like, fuck the fuck.
Yeah.
Human sacrifice.
Human sacrifice for them was like a huge... It was a huge belief system for them.
Well, that's why a lot of them are pissed, because they're just tired of, like, their people dying.
Oh, yeah, because they believed that to please their gods, that human sacrifice needed to be performed.
Right.
No matter what. And I highly recommend, anytime that I'm going to do a Spanish-influenced episode, I recommend watching Apocalypto.
Oh, yeah, you were talking about that last time.
It is so good, and they focus on the Aztec Empire, specifically.
Yeah. You talked about that during our Columbus episode, I think.
It is so good. I recommend it. Now, in the Aztec, or Mexico City was not always called Mexico City, believe it or not. It was originally called Tenochtitlan. I love that name. I think it should have been kept that, but whatever. It's a very unique place. I really want to go there because they have one of their museums in a ginormous sundial that was buried by Cortes when he was rebuilding his empire.
Oh, wow. That'd be cool.
Yeah. Cortes building these alliances, one particular was the kingdom of Tlaxcala. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. With agreement to take the city. Now, Cortes and his men would move towards Tenochtitlan now. So he would get with these Tlaxcala tribes because they did not like the Aztecs. And so he was just like, then let's go, we're off. So they started their way there. So Tenochtitlan itself is a land built on a complete... They believed it was a prophecy, that land. When the Aztecs were trying to find their capital, they searched around to find that perfect land, and they found Tenochtitlan. Now, oh my God, I know. This city is actually built on an island in the lake of Texcoco. It blows my mind, like, how much it has changed. But yeah, it literally sat around a lake on an island, and it was just built. It was huge. It was massive. You had houses everywhere. You had beautiful pyramids and whatnot. It was wild, like, going upon it. But those are never safe to have. Because, like, you had that water to separate yourself from your enemies, but having that much exposure to the water around, that can be very dangerous, and it would not be beneficial for them in the long run.
Wasn't it directly in the middle, too?
Yes. It was directly in the middle, and I was just like, dude, this is not good. It was a beautiful city. It had canal systems, beautiful, ginormous pyramid, and class systems, actually. So you had, like, the poor, the poverty, the wealthy, the middle class. Like, it had its own class system, too. Like, it was pretty impressive. Like, they were a full functioning society. Even though they had human sacrifice, like, they still managed to strive pretty damn well for themselves. Like, it was amazing. Now, with this conquering, Cortes was just like, okay, we got to figure out what we're going to do. So they kind of just, like, walked up and were like, hi, guys, what's going on? And then you would have the Aztec ruler, who was Montezuma II. He was Montezuma Xochitl.
We just call it Montezuma II.
Montezuma II. Yes, okay. But he pretty much, Cortes went up and was like, hey, bro, like, this is your beautiful capital, I see. And he was just like, who the fuck are you, pasty white man?
Did not take it well.
He was just like, what was going on? And Cortes was like, this is pretty cool city. Yeah. Can I stay a while? He was just like, okay.
Manipulation.
Oh, he did it well. But then again, he didn't, because he didn't give a fuck. He was just like, this looks pretty cool, stealing stuff as it goes.
Yeah.
But now, Cortes has been conquering Mesoamerica for months. And he would reach on November 8th, 1519 to Tenochtitlan. How Montezuma II didn't really find out that he was doing such kind of beats me. I'm just like, how did he really not know who this guy was? He was like, but then again, if Cortes was going to all of like the enemies, tribes, then he probably didn't really know. But if he was going to like his own states, then he would probably figure it out.
Yeah, they want to be sneaky.
So he kind of was like surprised that this man just like appeared and was just like, hey, this looks pretty cool. Like, tell me about your land. Like, he didn't already know what was going on everywhere else. Like, if you see a white man, you be cautious, because you don't know what
white
his
men are
motives
dangerous.
Are. Honestly, Pocahontas, 1994.
Thank you.
No, was it?
I don't know.
I think it was 95. Ugh, whatever. His confidence was not only due to for his enemies. Like, Cortes was like super confident of just like, I'm gonna come in and do what I want, but I also have a higher chance success rate of beating you. He did not tell Montezuma this straight out. He was just like, he was thinking to himself, well, this guy has a pretty cool empire. Like, it's pretty big, pretty popular. But I have swords, armor.
Yeah.
Disease I can give them.
Just breathe on them.
I have a lot. Yeah, I can just breathe on them. And he's like, this is pretty cool. Because, like, I don't know if he really understood, like, how big this city was going to be. But it was fucking massive. And I think that was his turning point of just, like, I want this.
Yeah.
I think he was a man of wants, because no matter what he had, he wanted more.
It wasn't enough.
No, and then when he saw the capital, he was just like, shit, this is his? I want this. And so he kind of put his manipulation into it.
Yeah.
So Montezuma did not know of Cortez's intentions. He kind of just was like, so you're visiting, this is great, like, cool.
Yeah.
And he gave him gifts, gave him hospitality, pretty much was just like showing off like how great he was as like a ruler and whatnot. Gave him great dinners. And their like reasonings between the two, like they didn't really understand each other. So Montezuma was doing it as hospitality.
Right.
And Cortes thought he was surrendering.
Yeah.
So their levels were not met the same. They didn't really communicate that really well. Or Malanje was just like, I'm going to see how this turns out. I'm just going to leave it at that.
She was probably just confused. Like,
yeah.
I don't know.
No, his ignorance was just like, okay, you are surrendering to me. This is great. I'm going to take that to my advantage.
Yeah.
So this did not really set well with his men. His men were just like, this is getting pretty intense. Like, Cortes is starting to think of, like, pretty much taking over the city, when Diego was just like, guys, don't even go inland. Just stay out of it. Just, like, look and check to make sure. Because I think Velazquez wanted to go in and do it himself.
Yeah.
But Cortes was just like, fuck him, I'm gonna do it myself, I can do it. And his men were just like seeing how he was just taking over these small villages and gaining their alliance to take over the Aztecs. They were just like, this is getting pretty crazy, pretty intense, really fast. Like, they were starting to question his intentions of what he was trying to do.
Yeah.
I think they kind of noticed that he was trying to pull like a Columbus or his cousin Pizarro. Like they were starting to realize that he was striving to get something that they were trying to do too.
Right.
He wanted to skip all of those other ranks and just become a true conqueror. And he was doing pretty good at it. And these people everybody was starting to fear him because they knew that he could get it done. To prevent his men from leaving, Cortes destroyed most of their ships. So he found out that his men were questioning his intentions and his ignorance of what he was doing and was like, okay, well, you're staying here because I need you. So I'm going to freaking destroy more than half those ships. So you have to stay here no matter what. So he kind of screwed himself over in that sense. But like he screwed a lot of those men too because they were just like, this isn't right. Like we should probably leave. And Cortes was like, no, you're staying.
Right.
Like, no. This welcome from Montezuma was not going to last very long. So Montezuma was giving him extravagant gifts, showing him gold and everything, like all of the jewels that Cortes heard about as a kid and growing up. He was just like, this is great news for me because I'm going to take it all. Mm-hmm. So what he ended up doing was that his greed and determination for conquering finally fueled him to actually take action and do something. Finally pulling the trigger, Cortes took Montezuma captive in his own palace. Pretty much was just like, Chokehold was like, you're mine now! And like nobody was gonna touch him because they had like the swords and the armor and they're just like, what the fuck do we do? Like this dude's just like coming in and taking Montezuma. Like what do we do? And that was probably like nobody else could do that. And I think him worming his way into that blew my mind on how he was able to do that.
Yeah.
But then again, like this was like a new man that nobody has ever seen before, wearing clothes that they've never seen either. And so they probably, I believe I read that in one of my sources that Montezuma thought of him as a god, as like a prophecy.
Yeah.
So he was just like, oh my God, we have a god here. Like I have to show him how great I am. And Cortes took that to his advantage.
Well, because they've never seen like other people before.
No.
So you see people coming in on ships and they're like, I remember they thought that they were like floating houses or something.
Yeah, it's crazy because, and a lot of them who are because a lot of those people were very, very religious to their gods.
Yeah.
And so seeing these people that they've never seen before, they take it as this is their representation of what they're
right.
gods.
So they're not going to think that you're out to get them. Like,
yeah, that you're someone else because they didn't know that there's more out there.
Yeah.
So
right. It's totally understandable.
Exactly. With the next 8 months were contributed to acts of guerrilla warfare, murder, and the spread of disease. So him capturing Montezuma just freaking left the whole capital in a frenzy. They're just like, what the fuck are we doing? Because his over 300 men and all of the alliances started to move in and we're just like, hey, we're coming in. Like, don't you worry. We're going to take charge.
Yeah.
And everybody was just like, what the fuck do we do? And if anybody, pretty much as his men started to move in, they all threatened just the people that if they tried to revolt against them and they're moving into the capital, that they would cut them up and feed them to their dogs. So they would do anything. They would murder them. They would pretty much torture them all that they could.
Yeah.
So you did not want to disrespect. And a lot of people, I feel like some were probably relieved that finally someone was taking over the Aztec ruler, but a lot of them were probably just like their lives were being uprooted.
Yeah. Because
of a man that they've never seen before. So this started so much chaos. Smallpox started spreading through Central America and started to quickly wipe out the native population. So before, like, during, like, the plague era and whatnot, the Americas never had any of it because they were not exposed to that side of the world. Like, nobody ever came to that side of the world. So when the Spanish and Portuguese started to arrive there, they started to bring their plague to there. So it's just like, what the fuck? Like, you're not supposed to leave. That's how it spreads. But they don't
care.
They don't know that. Like, they're kind of dumb when it comes to that because nobody understood. Which makes sense, but...
I think it's just going to end eventually, like...
spread it? Yeah, and it wiped out almost the entire Native population in Latin America, which is devastating.
Yeah.
But... So with the smallpox starting to decimate the population, this only gave him more control to the city, and pretty much because they were fine, they were exposed to it already, but the Native population, they never had anything like this before. This was all new to them because they were relatively pretty healthy people. But so they started dropping like flies, unfortunately. Now, the ultimate form of power from Cortes was destroying the Aztec leader. He finally claimed that his own people stoned Montezuma to death.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure that he or his men murdered him, too. Either or. But Montezuma finally was dead. So, no more Aztec ruler. He finally had full control of this empire, which is terrifying. Late June 1520, Cortes and his men left in order to defeat Spanish troops. Now, the king and queen finally, and even Diego, found out what was going on, what he was doing in Mexico City, and they were just like, y'all gotta figure him out. Like, you gotta go do something about it. So they sent a man by Panfilo Narvaez to come take Cortes back to Spain, pretty much go against the king and queen, and for them to be like, what the fuck are you doing?
Right. Knock some sense into him.
Yeah, but Cortes was like, let's go take care of him. He was not going back. He was just like, I'm gonna go back on my own terms.
Yeah.
And I'm not ready. I'm not ready to leave. So he and quite a few of his men would go back and would go to defeat a lot of the troops. He ended up losing a lot of his men, but he still had enough to, like, come back. Like, he survived it. But when he came back to Tenochtitlan, to Mexico City, it was just in a full rebellion. Like, without him there, like, everybody was just fighting one another. Like, it was a madhouse. There was just warfare everywhere. And he was just like, I've been gone for 2 weeks. Like, what the fuck, guys? I'm sure it was
together for that long.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was longer than 2 weeks, but he was just like, dude, you gotta be kidding me.
Yeah.
So he and his men tried to leave, like, later that night, but a lot of his rivals, like, a lot of, like, rivals in that area that were, like, fighting with them would murder many of his men and the alliances, like, the alliance people that he has. So he was just like, shit. I don't really know. I don't know what to do. So he kind of ran off into one of, like, the other, like, independent tribes. And it would take him a whole year to take back control of Mexico City. This dude lost it. Like, he could not... He strived so high, but he couldn't keep it. That is pretty much his role as a conqueror. Is that he knew how to take it, but he didn't know how to stabilize it and to keep it going. He was definitely a conqueror, but he was not good at being like a governor or anything.
Yeah.
Like, he had no idea how to do that. So taking back the city, Cortes started building brigades and cannons from the mainland to the city. So pretty much he was building that city up to protect himself. Afraid of, like, having more of, like, the people this was him actually trying to take back the city. So he was like building canyons and brigades to like build them because he wanted to get back in, and he knew that he had to build outside of the city and the canals to pretty much kill off what was going on inside it. That's how he was going to take it back. So he built all of this, and then he kind of left them to fend for whatever they had. So he cut off any supplies of foods to come in. So pretty much what they had on that lake, on that island, was what they had. And then combining with a lot of like the Spanish, like white people, they were pretty much killing off the natives of disease. So they started dropping like flies with that because they had no way to get away from them. Yeah. Pretty much what Cortez did was just trap them in. Right. And just waited.
They don't have any other option.
Yeah, he just waited that whole year. He was just like, I'm just going to let them destroy themselves, and then I will take charge once again. Which is like a pretty good tactic, even of how terrible it is. Right. It's really devastating, but that's what he ended up doing. They all started dying of starvation, disease. And right as they really struggled, he raided and took back what he could. Now this time he decided that I gotta make this my own. He was just like, there is just too much wrong with what was going on. Like, I need to rebuild this city. Like, when he walked in, there was no treasures left. There was just bodies everywhere. He was just like, are you fucking kidding me? I have to rebuild all of this. But of course, like, everybody who took all the treasures, he was just like, I gotta do this again. Pretty much rebuild this. He was like, okay, I guess. Now, there was still trading, still intact within the Aztec Empire, so he kind of took that to his advantage to start building it. Now, he would eventually build on top of the ruins of Tenochtitlan, so he pretty much he called it New Spain, and he built on top of it. It would be August 13th, 1521, that the Aztec Empire officially fell, and Cortez took charge and started building New Spain, which we now know as Mexico City. He was really excited about that. Now, as we know, he was a very greedy man. He wanted more. So what he ended up doing was that he set up an expedition to modern-day Honduras. He pretty much just went out there, wanted to conquer it, get some more treasure, whatnot, so he left again. He was not good at staying at one place for too long, as we can tell. Even though he was labeled as a governor, Cortez still set out on the expedition. He was just like, I don't care about my title. I'm going to go on this expedition. I don't think he really wanted to be like a governor or anything. I think he just really wanted to conquer and then move on. Yeah. Which I'm like, I don't know why you just didn't do that in the first place. But then again, he had to raise to get to that title, and he decided that just breaking the rules was the way to go.
It's easier that way.
It really is.
I guess.
So on his way in Honduras, Cortez was set off by... He, like, lost it. And I think this was a huge point of, like, the syphilis getting to his head. That he completely executed the Emperor of Cuauhtemoc. So he executed this man, and they got pissed. Like, the people, they were just like, what the fuck are you doing? He's just like, crazy. So he ended up going back, and he was like, yeah, I'm sorry. Oops. Yeah, and then the treasury of one of Velazquez's men was just like, dude, why? Like, we're trying to, like, conquer here. You just executed this man. And Cortez was like, I don't give a fuck. He's like...
It's like, I do what I want.
He was like, I wanted their treasure. I wanted what I got. And I'm going to move on. He's not going to come back for me now. And this dude was just... His name was Cristobal de Olid. He was just like, are you fucking kidding me? He's like, now I have to go back to Diego. And he's just going to yell at me and bitch about you. So here we go. Spain heard of this, of Cortez's uncontrollable power, his terrible reigning of just like leaving his people just to fend for themselves. And they're just like, okay, we need to get someone to go pick him up. And this man was Ponce de Leon, which I am so excited because in late January, when my sister and I go to Florida, we are actually spending a couple days in New Smyrna in Daytona, and we're going to the Ponce de Leon Inlet Lighthouse again. We went when we were younger, but I'm really excited. So
that'd be cool.
Yeah, Ponce de Leon. Now, he was sent by the king and queen to suspend Cortez of his governance. So pretty much he was getting fired. He sent someone to get fired. I was like, that's nice. So he went there. He was just like, hey, Cortez, you're done. You're done.
You're cut off.
You're cut off. You got to go back to Spain. Cortez was like, oh my God, are you kidding me? Fine, I'll go back. He was such a child.
So dramatic.
So in 1528, Cortez returned to Spain to appeal to Charles V. Pretty much like just stood up to the king, was just exclaimed about his conquesting, and he explained like, I still provided for the crown. I gave you guys what I found. I don't know why I'm being punished for this. It's like, I don't know why I had to come back. I was doing my job. I was providing the crown, their money, the name. I was conquering more for a country.
He's like, I'm such a hero, guys.
Yes, he was convincing Charles V that he was doing what was right and what was good of the country. And he must be like such a charismatic dude that he was just like, okay. He was like, Charles was like, yeah, I like what you came to me. Like, I understand where you're coming from, so I'm gonna give you a noble title.
Jesus Christ.
So he became Marquis d'Elve de Oaxaca.
Yep.
Oaxaca.
Okay.
Good Lord. So after getting that title, Charles was like, you may go on your way. And eventually Cortez was like, okay, I'm gonna go back to Mexico, but since you guys suspended me from being governor, I'm just not gonna go back to Mexico City, really. So in 1530, with new titles and his once power no longer held because he was no longer a governor, he decided to go to an expedition in 1536 to Baja California.
Ooh.
He was just like, oh, I like expeditions. I'm gonna go on another one. In this time, I made like a last note because I wanted to know what happened to his wife.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Forgot about her.
Yeah, it blows my mind. I was just like, he's going on all these expeditions. He's just conquering. I was like, whatever happened to his wife? Well, his wife followed him to pretty much where he was living at all times. But at one point, she was talking smack to him pretty much. And she was like, hey, what are you doing? Why are you sleeping with this woman? I am your wife. And she said something that he did not like. Later that next day, she was pushed out a window and died.
By him?
I'm pretty sure.
Jesus Christ.
I can't say.
Right. But it was a possibility.
I am pretty sure he pushed her out the window.
My God.
Yeah,
I'm not surprised.
I don't think they had any kids, but I think Cortez ended up having like 3 kids with Malinche. So I'm like, why? Why were you even married to this lady if you just treated her like trash and then freaking killed her? I'm not sure about that, but all I know in my research was that she was pushed out a window.
So you make the prediction that you think.
I'm pretty sure he did. So 1541, Cortez returned to Spain. So after his little expedition in Baja California, he was like, oh, this is fun. I conquered what I can, but I'm going to go back to Spain. Because he couldn't stay in one place for too long.
Oh, yeah, of course not.
This man is wild. Like, there's some people who are like that, but this dude, he was just like, I conquer, bye. Mm-hmm. And he went to Spain to take on, like, his old enemies, but he was rejected by the entire community. Nobody gave him the time of day. He was old news. Anything that he did to build Mexico City was old news. Like, nobody cared anymore. There was something new going on. And so when he went back to Spain, he was just like, guys, you know what I did? You remember what I did? And people were just like, ew, get away from me. Like, you're weird.
He can't manipulate them anymore.
No, he couldn't. He had no more drive for that. And the crown was supposed to give Cortes his money for all the expeditions, but they never did. So he pretty much just kept going in debt, asking the crown to give him his money, and they're like, no. You'll get it back eventually, but I can't promise anything. So he returned back to Mexico in 1547. He decided that he wanted to live out his days in Mexico, get a piece of land, just kind of chill, raise nobody. I don't know. He probably had slaves still too. He was getting to, as he was on his way to Seville in Mexico, Cortes was stricken with dysentery.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. So he's always getting sick, I guess. So his life would end on December 2nd, 1547 at the age of 62. Yeah, so that was like a pretty rough way to end his life.
He made it pretty far for all his diseases.
Yeah. And he pretty much had like his children, but out of his favorite, Martin was his favorite. He got all of his money and he was baptized, so he was made legitimate. So he got all of his money when he died. All the money that he kind of had, not really had.
Right.
So, and that is the life of Hernan Cortes.
I think I learned that some people just have really bad immune systems.
He had a terrible one. I'm surprised he didn't die of smallpox.
Yeah, he made it pretty far.
Yeah, age of 62 wasn't too bad for them, but it's funny how quick and how much he took over, but in the end, it didn't matter. Like, he just couldn't stay in a place for too long. Right. And I don't think he had it in him to be a ruler or like the governor of like this big city. He just wanted to take it over. He had that adrenaline to take it. Yeah. And he did. He was a terrible man though. Yeah. In this perspective that like he was a great conqueror, but when it comes to the morals.
Right. He didn't have much of a.
No, he just took. And a lot of lives were taken. A lot of the information that I took, I didn't save that. I didn't say it in the beginning, but I want to mention it because this book is great. It's called Latin America in Colonial Times by Matthew Ristall and Chris Lane. This is a really good book. It follows a lot of daily life, conquerors, pretty much. It leads up to, I think, the 1700s.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. It's a really good book, though, and it's an easy read. Like, it's not a boring read, especially in this history. It's not a boring read whatsoever. But I had a lot of fun because I never really studied him. Because we had, like, a project to do, and I didn't do it on him. I did it on Cabeza de Vaca, who I really, really want to do an episode on, because he is fascinating. He is the Odysseus of the Spaniards. So, I'm excited for that one. But this one was a pretty good read. Pretty good research. I highly recommend looking into a lot of the history of him, even though he was a terrible man.
There you go.
So.
Yay.
That was Hernan Cortes. What did you learn?
I already said some people have bad immune systems.
Oh, shit, yeah.
What did you learn?
Pretty much everything about this man's life, but don't conquer.
Don't conquer.
But, I mean, if you want... What I learned is that if you don't stay in one place for too long, you're never... No, I don't know. I don't know what I learned.
I don't know.
I don't know what I learned this week. All I know is that, like, it doesn't hurt to, like, move around, but, like, moving around like him and doing what he did, I don't recommend.
Sometimes you just gotta relax.
Honestly, like, granted, he did relax in Mexico at the end, but...
Took him a while, though.
I think he would have stayed in Spain if people respected him, but nobody respected him.
Yeah.
So he was just like, I'm gonna go back to Mexico.
Just had a hissy fit there.
Honestly, but I learned that I learned that Tenochtitlan was pretty freaking wild during the fall of the empire. I knew briefly about the fall of it, but jeez, to that extent, it was wild. Crazy. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate it.
It's been a great journey today.
Oh my God. Where can you find us?
You can find us on Instagram and Facebook. Oh my God. Sorry, my whole body just forgot how to talk. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Historia the Podcast. You can... Sorry. Okay. You can email us at historiathepodcast@gmail.com. You can send us, like, your requests. You can send us your stories, your thoughts, feelings, emotions. How do you think that his wife died?
Oh, yeah. What do you think
he did it? That kind of thing. So just let us know. So yeah, you can send us an email. And then we're on Twitter at HistoriaThePod1.
Yeah.
I think I said everything.
Well,
it's been real.
It has been real. We will catch you on the flippy flop next time.
We will. Thanks for being patient with us as we didn't have an episode last week.
Yes, life gets crazy and it's around the holidays, so.
Yes.
Yeesh.
It's fine. All right.
It's fine. We'll catch you later.
Be safe, be nice, love you.
Bye.
Goodbye.